Okie doke. As Jack was saying, I do have a bit of a newspaper background, media background, back a long time ago at Knight Ridder, where I was president of a company called PressLink, where we sold images to newspapers and broadcast folks online over the telephone line, 1989. We've come full forward now to where people didn't even believe you could do that in 1989, and now it's just a commonplace thing. I think there's been a paradigm shift in with social media, and you'll see the amount of traffic that gets generated and the engagement that gets generated with social media before today versus it's taken the place of a lot of the traffic that Google and the search engines that Yahoo used to send us. And when I was researching some data for this group, I came across this thing which kind of blew me away, and Chad didn't blow him away because he's been using it, so he can tell you more about it. But Pinterest is delivering more traffic than Yahoo search. Not only more than Yahoo search, but Bing and StumbleUpon and Twitter. And Twitter, Twitter with what, 140 million Twitter names, or whatever we call those names. It's kind of impressive to see that Pinterest, it's working real well in the health and working real well in the travel sides, where you have images that you can share. And I think there's a demographic, Chad, what is the demographic of the folks that use Pinterest?
It grew out of older women, probably mostly Southeast and Midwest, so it wasn't started on the coasts. It wasn't, the fan base we saw it early on. I mentioned it earlier, but it was the first social network that we found out about from friends and family of people that worked at HGTV, and not from news sites like TechCrunch or Mashable or things like that. And as early as a year ago, so it's kind of become the darling, probably this past, earlier this year, it showed up in our top 10 refers. Last September, it was consistently in there starting back in January, which is when we went ahead and had created an official presence as much as you can that a brand can have on Pinterest. For a site like HGTV, you can imagine, with photography really being our bread and butter, it has done extremely well. It drives now more page views across our sites than Facebook does. So, show who has Pinterest from like a professional, not just personal, but how many people are actually
Newspaper.com Pinterest, or TV.com Pinterest.
So like maybe a third of you guys, a quarter, third of you. And to just general sense, thumbs up, thumbs down, a sense of, is your time spent there valuable? Are you finding it valuable for your sites or for your stories? I'm getting a nod, yes. So, mostly positive. Okay.
But for you,
huge. I mean, millions of page views for sites like HGTV. Food Network is growing. Food's kind of, it's been shown to be the #1 category in terms of growth. People love pictures of foods you shouldn't eat. Fried chicken, mac and cheese. People, those types of pictures get you hungry and get you clicking back to Food Network, food.com, cooking channel.
Get that recipe, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I did to prepare for this meeting was to take a look at some reports and try to contrast what folks are doing on the non-media side versus the media side. So on the non-media side, just to tell you where I got this information, and if you give me your business card, I'll send you the reports, all the reports I gleaned the data from. And then I'll tell you how I was able to figure out some of these stats, which Chad tells me 87.5% are made up on the spot. So the non-media came from Spreadfast, which is a tool. It's a good tool that folks, large companies use. They had 154 companies that are clients, folks like Nokia, Whole Foods, et cetera. Some of them are in a more nascent stage. Some are very, a lot of their folks use it. So this is, here we have averages here. Some of the bigger numbers are on the folks that have a lot more people committed to it. The media information, you guys will probably recognize it. Most of it came from Pew, and some of it's from the State of the Media. And I wanted to try to contrast and see if we could come up with some kind of conclusion about, is there a reason for us to, in the media business, to actually take a look at what they're doing in non-media and emulate that. So the first thing you look at is that these large corporations have at least 27 people within their organization that just do Facebook. And if you continue down this side, I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers, you'll see exactly why, a lot of interactions. Whereas they do about the same kind of messages as media on the average on Twitter, about 50 tweets a day. The interactions for the non-media is 60 interactions per tweet. For a message on Facebook, it's 549 interactions. So it kind of tells you if you're only going to do one, and I'm not suggesting that you do one, do Facebook. People get a lot more mileage out of it, and Pinterest as well. They average about 15 million impressions monthly. That's about 500,000 a day. And if you look over on the media side, only 9% of people follow new recommendations, except when you get down the traffic, about 6 to 8% come from computers, from laptops, from pads, and from telephones. 6 to 8% of the traffic. But there's going to be 1 billion smartphones sold in 2015, and 67% of the folks on the media side follow Facebook recommendations with respect to smartphones, and 34% are following recommendations with respect to tweets, retweeting, reading the tweets. So there's a huge opportunity between now and 2015 on the mobile side including the phone and the laptop. And
is there anyone here who doesn't have a smartphone? Don't be afraid. You can raise your hand. One person, 2 people. Okay.
So, and the Facebook, the other thing that they do on the non-media side is they listen to people and they ask for information. And my research showed that on the media side, with the exception of Fox, there's very little request of data. Tell me about yourself, tell me about what you're interested in, send me some information about this news story, how do you feel about this? It's just almost non-existent in terms of the percentage of numbers, where on the non-media side, they're listening to an average of 144 streams a day and taking that information and going back and asking for information for people. So you guys have anything?
Let's Beverly, why don't you talk a little bit about how your company is sort of on this left side. Talk about what your world's like a little bit now. You have some of the biggest music artists going, a lot of them, and you have all sort of media challenges now, right?
Well, it's interesting because we have a publicity department, which I work in, which is what you think of traditional media. We try to get artists on TV shows, written about in magazines, newspapers. We have a social media or new media department. And of course, some of those lines are blurred. But our artists have to do more than ever now. In the last few years of Johnny Carson's show, for instance, he had about 17 million viewers a night. Now, if you look at the Tonight Show and Letterman combined, they don't have half of that audience. So we have to do a lot more of everything, and we're still reaching fewer people. So we are Facebooking, tweeting, posting videos. Relatively new trend is that people are going to YouTube to listen to music. So labels are creating what they call lyric videos, which are just an interesting way of the lyrics. Of course, our dilemma is, if you put the song out for free, then how do we make money? That's sort of an ongoing thing. And then we even get increased demands from newspapers, magazines, media outlets, and it gets down to there's just too many demands on the artist. Like for instance, we had the Lionel Richie album come out this year, and we did a layout in a major magazine where they came to his house, spent the day, photographed, did an interview, and then it was also, oh well, can we also interview him on camera for our website? And then it was, oh, we're launching a new app. Can he also, you know, host the new app and walk people how to do it? And it's like, no, we don't have time for that. And then that falls under an endorsement thing. And then the question is, what helps, what doesn't help? You know, we talk about millions of impressions, and it all boils down to, you know, the song, the music, and the artist. If people don't like it, if the music's not there, you can do all the Facebook in the world, but it's not going to matter. And then in the last session, Rex made a good point. He said, well, you work with artists who are signed, so they're at a different level. So for new artists, they have to do everything possible, old school and new school, if you will. Old school would be playing out live, trying to meet people in the industry. New school is posting videos on YouTube. That's how artists get discovered. Artists now can go online and have fans finance the production of their albums, raise $35,000, $50,000. So it's an interesting time, and our younger artists live on Twitter. And in fact, my husband has a saying to me. He says, you don't have to tell all you know. And sometimes I feel like we have to share that with our younger artists, because they want to tweet everything. And we say, no, wait a minute. We want to have a big social media reveal and bring in the media about your album announcement. Don't just tweet it, you know. Or we had a younger artist, we'll do a photo shoot, and from that photo shoot, we may get photos that we need to use for a year. Well, as soon as we got everybody liked the photos, he put them all out on Facebook, and I thought, well, now what are we going to do when Billboard wants an exclusive photo? You know, so the younger artists, you have to sometimes hold in the reins, but Twitter's a fabulous tool because fans can connect with artists one-on-one, and if they address an artist or address a fan or retweet a fan, that fan will be there forever, and that connection is there. But something that we've talked about at the last is that sometimes, whether it's Twitter, the videos, Facebook, whatever, sometimes it's just entertainment for the sake of entertainment, meaning they may follow an artist, an actor, or whatever, but they don't ever buy the album, see the show, watch the TV show. In the last thing, I said, well, you know, I've seen Honey Boo Boo online, but I'm not going to watch the show probably. Same with Snooki or Jessica Simpson or whatever. So it doesn't always translate into sales or viewership.
Rex, you're trying to help your clients, but you're also a keen observer of what traditional news media has been doing. What are some of your thoughts on this screen?
Let me talk about helping clients. And we're a company that has for over 20 years worked with clients who want to develop direct relationships with their customers. We'll call them sometimes their members of associations. That goes direct to the customer and circumvents the existing sort of models of advertising and the traditional media. So I've always been somewhat of an enigma to traditional, but you walk into our offices and you'll find people who developing magazines and people doing blogs and building wikis and things that look like, it's just that our clients are using this media to support a business model rather than the media itself being a business model. And sometimes we get that confused because in newspapers we're advertising this stuff that we're talking about today is the media, is the business model. What Beverly and to a lesser extent Chad, because he's a media business model, but we need to use this stuff to drive sales somewhere else is another. Now, where we overlap is in helping our clients understand how to use these tools, and I have a rant that I think should be called personal media, because this is all about individuals mastering these different tools, a camera, the ability to say some words, do a little video and post them and channel them and know where why they're doing what they're doing. And so we're discovering that the first thing one has to do when considering any of this is sit down and understand the objective. Because you can get sucked into wanting to do everything and do it but different types of personal and social media work for different types of objectives. Where Pinterest is incredible for Chad, there are reasons that it won't be incredible for someone else. So by understanding the objective, instead of saying we need to do a blog or we need to do more on Facebook, it's really sitting down and saying, what does this look like at the end when we are successful? And start there rather than trying to do all these tactical things.
From my standpoint, a lot of what Beverly says, I can sort of relate. I've heard the same sorts of conversation. How much do you give away and how much do you not give away, and are you really giving it away or what? But Chad, you're in sort of a different space and that you're on cable. Anybody that has a pretty robust cable subscription is going to get most of your channels. What's the whole point of it for you guys?
I mean, it's two things. One, it's tune in. So it's actually flip your channel to HGTV, Food Network, DIY. And then we also have a robust online business. We, unlike, I would say, the majority of our competitors in the TV industry, our online business we have a separate sales staff. We have separate, almost basically have separate P&Ls. We think that we operate beyond what you just see on TV. We write original content, we have our own editors, things like that. So it's driving eyeballs similar to what most of the people in the room, our business model is ad-supported, driving uniques and page views back to our website. So you make a great point. Whenever we look at everything we do on social media, at the end of the day, has to support that in some way. So that's where Pinterest has been great for us, because people see one photo, and if we can tell them this is one image in a gallery of 18, great headboard ideas, or 13 steps to maintain your lawn, they're going to click through and they want to read the rest of that article or look at the rest of that gallery.
And then do you have a product you can sell them at when they reach that? Or
we don't know, so we don't have a product per se. I mean, HGTV is a brand now. We have a line of paint, and we have a line of furniture and things like that. That's kind of a nascent business for us. At the end of the day, our business is eyeballs, whether that's on TV or online. And so it's more eyeballs staying longer, turning more pages. That's ultimately our business model. And that's where things like Instagram start for us are like, no one's clicking from Instagram to hgtv.com. But there's probably some value in engaging with folks on there. It's just hard to say what that is right now, and that's where, to Beverly's point of, you have to be everywhere and you have to be in more places than you've ever had to be. At the end of the day, we still have a limited number, at Scripps we like a work-life balance. And so as much as you can have that, while we still carry around devices like this. But at the end of the day, you still only have so many hours, and that's where we look at and say, where is our time best spent? So 3 Instagram photos a week might not take away too much time, because we're focusing and spending 2 hours a day pushing our content out to Pinterest, because we know that's going to result in millions of ad impressions back to the idea of what our business model is.
Can I ask if there are any among you that have evolved or beginning to evolve to a new business model where you are selling products and services or meeting the needs of your readers in ways that can generate revenues that aren't the traditional advertising or subscription model? And I will give you an example of, in the magazine industry where I come from, companies like Condé Nast and the New Yorker are finally, after several years, realizing that the New Yorker brand is more valuable as a brand for events and products, or as it is for subscription and advertising. So a bigger and bigger percentage of their revenue is going to doing products and events and festivals and readings and things that I can join and be a member of. Is anyone taking that to the Is anyone, okay.
I've been told we're in the fish wrapper business, but I'm not.
Well, although, that's the one part I do miss about not getting the print version. I'm sorry, what, there was an answer, are you?
Oh, yeah, we have a sort of a high-end lifestyle magazine, and we have events and things like that connected to that. And we've done well with both the advertising and the events.
Do you charge for those events, or do you view those events as?
Actually, this is not my field, and I hesitate to answer that because I might get it wrong.
That really, remind me about the Tennessean, didn't they used to do like Broadway tours and things, or Claire Hieronymus did?
Yeah, Claire Hieronymus used to take a group to New York once or twice a year, see the plays,
That was an ancient version of what I'm talking about.
A lot
She
of
used the
newspapers,
platform-
a lot of newspapers do event marketing now.
Right.
Yeah, like women's show, it's a car show or
So
whatever.
I'm seeing that companies, media companies, traditional B2B media companies, which have a beautiful business model for online and social media because they make their money from the trade shows as much as they make from the advertising and none from subscription, that I'm seeing that kind of filter out, especially in the magazine industry, where they're saying, hey, we have this relationship, and the more ways we can hook these relationships, be it through social media, the more we can drive traffic to the ways we can make money, and those are through the events and the products and services.
I'm from the Tennessee, and I'm Linda Zettler, features editor there, and we have gotten much more into events, and we certainly have to pick our spots, make sure that they're worthwhile. But for example, our shopping diva, Kathy Aycock, and Ms. Cheap, who writes about a very popular column for bargain hunters, both of them have at least 2 events a year that they do, but particularly with Shopping Diva, we're branching out. We just had an event in April called Cocktails and Couture, and that was absolutely an opportunity for her to interact with readers. It was something we pushed in a big way. People came in, there was a fashion show, they paid a ticket to get in, so that's definitely something we're doing at the Tennessee.
Let me just say, from a history in social media for over 15 years, the people that meet online want to gather physically. I was in Portland this past weekend with the group of people who are the early users of things like Kickstarter and Etsy. It's called, if you want to Google it, it was called ExoFest is the hashtag. But these people who know each other wanted to get together because they're doing something, and they pay and they raise the money on Kickstarter. So the more that you can view the publication as groups of niches that your frontline reporters are building a relationship with, there are examples of turning those relationships into revenue streams all over the place. So, but it's by people who didn't think of themselves as a giant media company with things to protect. I mean, these are people that didn't have anything to protect, so they could try something and fail.
Yeah.
We actually, this was not a revenue model thing, but we did this project called Recession Generation about young people in the economy, and it was built around reaching out to people through Facebook around specific high school classes and things, and then 5 years after they graduated or something. And one of the things we did is turn those into meetups. One of them, the first one was around jobs, and we actually had people who gave them job counseling and things like that. And it was meant to build a younger audience. And we're doing political meetups with these same groups of young people around some of their issues and stuff and survey. So it's not revenue models, but it's sort of, we were surprised how eager some of these younger people were to actually have a meetup with, you know, an organization like the Seattle Times.
Let me make a business
Yeah.
suggestion, if any of you are in the business. Experiment with making those a business,
Yeah.
a revenue source. That, I mean, you should own the niche in your communities of people who are passionate about that topic, and it's okay. They want to pay. They know that if they pay, they're going to get better speakers and better talent or whatever it is. So this whole idea that people want everything free is a myth. I've just experienced people spending the last $400 they had and flying across the country to be with other people who have a passion, who share their passion. So they will pay for meetups if you have the right programming and you curate it. And your reporter who covers that beat should be the leading expert on that topic. I just want all my music for free.
I
Me too, me
I want
too.
everything for free. Jack was nice enough to get us free coffee. I want to point out something here. The non-media people, they use the social media programs to a great extent to share and do some interaction, just like you were talking about. Other people's content, not just their own. You know, and the media, from what I was able to research, the traditional media, we're using the social networks like we did Google in 2000. We send them back to our own site. If you want to get your information out, that's one thing. But to use social media just to share information and not interaction and create that type of interaction, I think you're almost wasting your time on it. You're going to get a little bit of traffic, but you're not going to get those kind of followers, and you're not going to get the kind of retweets and reposts that the folks are going to get. I'm going to go to this thing. They've reached out to me. They want my opinion on things. And Fox News is they have really come a long way in the last year and a half in terms of asking for people's opinion. And what do you think about this? And share your information regarding this. And actually having meetups is a great thing. They feel important. They'll come back and they'll see what kind of interaction that you have.
Do you think that the media hasn't gotten past that this is sort of their one-way communication model for their traditional thing?
Having worked in almost ad-driven businesses, you know, it's counterintuitive to say, hey, let me send traffic to everybody else so I don't have as much traffic. That way I don't have as many eyeballs. But then, of course, I have to sell ads, and it is somewhat counterintuitive. But in the long run, you have more followers, more people who retweet and republish your stuff on Facebook.
Can I just say, Jack, that if anyone is going to win a Pulitzer Prize for tweeting, it will be NPR. Now, I know this won't work, but NPR's Ed Carvin, C-A-R-V-I-N. I don't know if any of you follow he is a machine at a topic, and that is the Arab Spring and all. But his is basically a linking blog post where he says, here's where it's happening right now, here's who to listen, here's where the best tweeting is, I think, knowing as a reporter, knowing what your readers are interested in, and if it's on your site, pointing them there, if it's a completely around the world and a blogger is doing it, point them there. That's the only way you build followers worth, over 2,000 or something.
So he's created a destination to, I mean, it may be in your stream, but he's still sort of he's a trusted source.
He's a curator, and day after day, 24 hours, if you're passionate about this topic, you're going to listen to him, you're going to have it set up to wake you up in the middle of the night and some key points or
And
something.
the curation is, I think, key to get as much interaction.
But with him, it's not just a word. It's not, we don't use the word curation. It's something that's so far transcendent of curation that it's this guy knows everyone that's being affected, and he's sharing it with me.
I had a couple examples of how I've been involved in using social media. One of them is Examiner.com. I don't know if you're familiar with Examiner.com, but we, within a couple years, recruited 70 to 80,000 writers, paid, vetted writers, and most of which weren't experienced. We didn't ask them to be journalists. We wanted to put out trusted, accurate, and complete content. But we knew going into this we had an issue with training. So the folks at Examiner.com came up with Examiner University, and Examiner University would teach them how to upload a photo. We borrowed some information from the style book, but we also taught them how to use social media. And we knew we couldn't live long on just Google News. Google News was actually floating our boat for the longest time. And I had read an article in Atlantic Monthly where traditional media outlets were kind of getting tired of Google News sending links off to people who weren't news sites. So we didn't see ourselves as a news site, so we decided to double down on social media programs and training for all of our examiners. And you can see this at examiner.com/EU. Some of the videos, especially these social media videos are available today. I asked them to make some of them available. The whole courses are not available. These are some of the kind of things that they teach. But it's about which ones should you use? How much of your own content should you be distributing? How much of others' content should be distributed? I mean, that's simple things. Be courteous and professional. That's kind of difficult to do sometimes, and especially when it's on the political side, or we had folks from all walks of life. So, if I was to make one recommendation, is training. The other thing is, you saw these non-media folks. They had on average 41 people in their organization that were allowed to tweet, post on Facebook, but that was the average. Some of these folks had 600, 700, 800 people that are posting on Facebook, and guess what? They're the most successful, and they have tools that help monitor that. And it's a little more difficult if you want to make sure that you're speaking with one voice, but they also have different channel streams. Some of them up to 93 different channel streams where they can post. I think that's something that you might want to take a look at if you were to take a look at the non-media best practices and then emulate some of this. Maximize the number of folks that you can that you can centralize using technology, and then let most of them post, and then review some of the posts from maybe some of the weaker members. I think you'll benefit from that.
So how many people have some type of training program, or have, let's just start there. All right, but 4. How many people have ever gone through some type of training program? A handful. Do you guys at least have, how many people have social media guidelines as a corporate policy? Okay, well, that makes me feel a lot better.
How many people understand the policies?
So, I'm sure you have training. I was curious about, what is that training? Is it how to tweet, or when to tweet, or what is it?
I mean, we don't necessarily have training, but we are a little bit siloed, so we've got 3 major divisions, and there are separate social teams around there. Most of the people that are on those teams, though, grew out of some other area of the company. They came from marketing, they came from digital, they came from PR. It kind of grew up, I imagine, like a lot of organizations, social media grew up organically across of Scripps, and then over the past 4 years, we've kind of whittled that down to, okay, social is actually owned by digital, it sits in these teams, it's governed by this, and we've been lucky that we've not really had any churn there. So, most of the people that are doing social for our companies have been there for quite some time. That said, we have done things, we do pay for Hootsuite. So Hootsuite has a product called Hootsuite University that they offer that a lot of people have actually gone through, and that's just more of best practices, somewhat how to use the tool, times of days, how to monitor things, things like that.
Beverly, do you have like any sort of like mentoring, or hey,
Well,
you're a new artist?
We have a publicity department, which is what I do. We have a new media that handles all the social media. And then artists may use our social media department for everything. And then they'll tweet themselves or whatever. They may hire a social media independent company to handle everything, or they actually may hire someone that works for them. In the case of some artists, there's a person that will go on the road with them to oversee everything. So it just depends on the artist. Some artists like George Strait or Jamie Johnson are not going to be probably tweeting and Facebooking a lot. It's just not their nature. Where other artists like Scotty McCreery, who won American Idol, lives on Twitter and is delighted to do a video to go online, and that is, it's so natural to them that it's all they know.
As much as I like Twitter, something's reassuring to me that George Strait doesn't
Right.
want to.
He also doesn't do many interviews. So it's just, so we don't,
Doesn't rhyme with Texas either.
Yeah.
we wouldn't push someone into doing something that is out of character, they don't feel comfortable with. It's whatever they want to do. We might encourage, we might explain the benefit of it, and
Well, in a
that sort
similar,
of
it's a
thing.
similar way that I said, you should know what the outcome is before you enter in. And the reporter, and whereas I could suggest reporters, editors, business people get together to figure out what the objective, do all those different parties sit down at a table and say, here's a strategy that we all can agree on? Or is the artist having one strategy? We've talked in the previous thing about how op-ed people and certain
Right.
people want to have their own brand and reporters, and then support the company's brand. Do you have that
Yeah,
sort
and
of
we would work with,
concept?
very closely with the artist manager, who works with everybody, every department head at the labels, and publishers, booking agents, all that, and they usually understand the importance of it. Now, of course, with a new artist, we're trying to take advantage of every tool possible, because you don't know what's gonna work to break them through. With an established artist, it boils down to what is the best use of their time. Because again, they're only limited as to how many hours, and if you've got 30 hours of interview requests, 30 hours of, I'll just say, online or social media requests, 30 hours of requests from radio programmers, and you've got a week, you can't do all 90 hours, so what do you do?
Part of your problem is you're not able to, this was added, I mean, you're not abandoning your traditional media to do
Right, we
the
have to
social
do
media.
everything, and, audiences are so fragmented now, and also, we have such short attention spans that we burn through facts like that. You go from website to website, this to that, news. Now, the upside of that can be when when there's a misstep online. Somebody sends out a bad tweet, like Ashton Kutcher sent out a tweet in support of Joe Paterno early on. He didn't understand really what the story was. Well, because we now have such short attention spans, that's forgotten, and we move on to something else. So just as we use social media to promote our artists, everybody out there, in a way, is sort of now a journalist with a cell phone. And the greatest example of that recently is when Kristen Stewart was caught having an affair with the producer that could theoretically have affected her career, and that's somebody, I think, just caught and posted online. So things could happen to my artists that are actually online before I even know that they've occurred. So
It's a good point. This slide here actually represents a company here locally in Cell Journalist. Anybody don't know if you use them at your business now? They provide over 250 broadcast stations with user-generated images and videos that are incorporated into newscasts, but also into storybooks and slideshows, and on the website as well. And you can see the benefits they get from Twitter and from Facebook and other social media programs. And the content coming in from these user-generated content, it's good stuff. Here's a couple. There's some really great videos. 30% of them have location data, which is about average for the industry. Another local company, evsays.com, has developed a heat map. EVSays provides event and sporting event and musical event information for newspapers and broadcast folks. They developed a social heat map index. Actually, this was started, I think they were tracking the bird flu, not EVSays, but some graduate student somewhere. And this tells you like how many people are at a certain event, or how many people are in a downtown area, how many people are tweeting and sending out Facebook information, or just posting information about Facebook. And it's an easy way to see kind of what's going on in your town or your area by just taking a look at the volume of the tweets, the volume of the Facebook posts that have GPS or geolocation attached to it, and provide some additional information for your readers and viewers. And it's not the exact tweets themselves. There's a lot of data flowing through here. And speaking of data, I would highly recommend that if whatever you do, however many folks you have involved in this practice, tracking that data, having the best data set, just like Google Analytics, but you need just more to know exactly what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. You need to look at this as spending as much money as you're going to be spending, that you used to spend on circulation and marketing. Eventually, you're going to spend, maybe not as much, but it's a whole new department. It's not like when I was in the business, we had one person who was in charge of contests at the newspaper, and we ran a few contests, and she made sure that we get to speak occasionally at some of the events. This is a cross-organizational effort with some investment that needs to be required in tools and in people to do this right.
Rex?
I want to go back to the question. Does anyone, as a part of your training to reporters, let's say, sit down, not just how to use the tools, but what is it we are trying to accomplish with you doing that? Is that a part of that training? Because I could see different reporters having different, if you're covering one kind of beat, it might be a different than another. So that's more of a question for me to anyone. Feel free to answer. So, good.
I mean, when we have that training, we sit down, we do best practices, but I mean, it's always got to be goals, and we try to make it measurable as well. We want to put as many eyeballs as we possibly can onto not only our print product, but also our mobile and web product. So depending, I mean, I've got a reporter who basically is a city reporter, but really has drilled down into the traffic beat all on her own. She's constantly out there, avoid this, avoid that, by the way, you know. She gets a lot of traffic, but she gets it all on mobile. And so we sat down and showed her that, and showed her the numbers across the various, platforms we have. So she's really focused now on, she was very much, I would say, a traditionalist. She would want to top her story. It's not about that anymore for her. She's basically giving you another update, another update, another update. And she understands where her audience is coming from and where she is kind of driving our audience.
That's awesome. Let me just say one thing to add to that. If you can come up with an objective for doing this that doesn't include traffic and eyeballs, you will crack the code. It's okay to do things that don't have to do with eyeballs and traffic. It's okay to do things that sell things. And if you can't sit down with a reporter and articulate how you're going to all make more money, or they're going to make more money, or you're going to monetize, and that's an okay word, even independent people that we think want everything to be free know that this is about money and it's okay to exchange money. And let me say one last thing. 40% of traffic is going to be mobile this year on all the cool sites that you know of. It's going to be 60% next year, and no telling what it will be the year after that. So the mobile thing is going to apply to everyone.
One of the interesting things that has come out of this is we have a new salesperson downstairs that's specializing in just car sales, and they went out to lunch. Because he liked this very much, and she's dubbed the Roadrunner, and so now we have one of our local tire dealers that wants to basically buy underneath her.
I promise this is the last thing I'm going to say. The objective can be to collect email addresses. You can monetize email addresses if that's all you can do. Jack, I'm following the back channel here, so don't just tweet bad things about me. Thank you. I think it's awesome.
Chad, y'all were doing a lot of sophisticated things in data, it sounds like. Can you talk a little bit about that, what you were looking at?
I mean, we just, so we subscribe to Hootsuite. We pay for Hootsuite at the enterprise level. We use a system called Sysmos that measures listening. So we've got a bunch of alerts set up for it. We've got a bunch of alerts set up for show names, hosts, personalities, that we monitor the conversation. And then we've also we use Omniture for all of our web analytics, and we have customized that heavily to actually include Facebook referral data, Twitter data. We measure social aggregately as an entire channel, so we can pit social against paid search, natural search, other, our sister sites within the Scripps family. And so, I mean, I've got a background in analytics, so I'm a kind of a data junkie, so I spend a lot of time looking at that and measuring it. You know, I think it depends on your business model. Obviously, for us, you know, while we're growing other businesses, it's still, at the end of the day, is eyeballs and page views. And, you know, that ultimately, it's great to have conversations, and there's value in that. There's also value in things like customer support for us. So we've had, you know, a bunch of different occasions where we've had to use our social channels to get online to talk about, you guys have probably all seen cable networks, or cable carriage. We had a couple of years ago a little bit with Cablevision, where we pulled ourselves off their networks. That would probably go down very differently today because of the number of Facebook and Twitter followers that we have. Anyone that's an AMC fan that's on Dish, you can see that playing out. You saw that play out over the summer. It's still going on. G4 is no longer carried on DirecTV. So there's all kinds of things like that that now play out in the social space, that we continue to build followers, knowing that we're going to have to, you know, at some point, everyone's going to have to address something like that that's going to happen. And I mean, crisis communication could be, we could spend another, you know, hour and a half just talking about that. But, you know, everyone continues to amass fans, followers, whatever the word is, for the day that that's gonna happen.
I get the sense that a lot of people just feel like they're trying to make it through the week, and that they're spread thin and they're doing the jobs of two people. And I just want to say, you're not alone in the media and out of the media. You know, there are a lot of people that feel like that. So don't get discouraged. And, you know, we're all trying to figure out what works and doesn't work, and you can put a lot of effort and hours and production into something and it doesn't work. So, you know, just try something.
And I'm sure you have folks in your organization, this data, following this data is just as important. You remember how we follow data on the web, and we know when somebody bails, and we take a look at that page and say, why did they bail off this page? Why didn't they go on? It's the same thing with social media. Why did this one get as many retweets? Why didn't it get as many retweets as this one did? Are these the kind of people that we want retweeting? So these are the kind of, you know, those answers, you find somebody within your department, I'm sure, that's in love with this stuff, and then leverage them to get more data and to use that to style what you're doing from an organizational standpoint when it comes to social media. It's hard art, but there's a lot of science behind it, and it's difficult right now. There's not as many folks providing the data, but it's, you know, if you look at the startups that are in, and that's kind of what I do today, is data startups for advertising, for web analytics, for social analytics, big money in those right now, because everybody needs that information. So you can start with a little bit and leverage that to its fullest.
We've got just a couple minutes left. Are there some questions that y'all would ask?
I do want to clarify that when I pulled out the George Strait and Jimmy Johnson examples, don't quote me on that. I just did those off the top of my head. I don't want calls at the office when I get back. I do know they Facebook, they may be very active on Twitter. So my point was, you just have different levels of artist involvement. So please don't get me in trouble on that.
Okay, do you have some questions out there, things we might not have covered or you wanted to ask about or get a little more information on? Okay.
Are any of you posting to sites like Reddit or Fortune or
Tumblr,
any, well,
StumblePong.
well, no, the ones where it's user content that it's very, it's the higher education, it's more like, it's not the kids on Facebook and the Twitter and all that, the like microscopic, but the sites where it's linked content and extremely mostly.
These are basically sites that people find something interesting, they post to it, and then there's a conversation around those, whatever that they link to.
Right.
It is what is primarily
Right.
Reddit is.
You and
Yeah, my experience is we post some things to Reddit. We actually get better traffic on the things that somebody else posts. The active Reddit is the active Reddit users are very good at spreading content on that system. And so if you're not very sophisticated with it, it's probably not going to go anywhere. But if you're one of the heavy duty Reddit users and you post a link, it's going to generate some traffic.
And it's one of the rare examples when a media company has bought a startup and didn't screw it up. And they actually made it better than it was. It's a Condé Nast owns it.
Okay.
What percent of the population does not do Twitter and Facebook?
That matter?
The adult.
That matter to your reader? I mean, to you as a business, or they just don't?
They just don't.
I have some data here.
I would make up a number.
He would do
So,
the-
I mean, there's worldwide, there's 600 million Facebook members. There's somewhere, I think, close to 200 million, 180 million Twitter people that are on Twitter. What, those engagement rates, Twitter, I think, is somewhere in the, I
It's
think
like
monthly, it's
16% of it.
yeah, it's like less than 20%, somewhere in that neighborhood.
It-
Facebook is something closer to more like 60%.
66%.
And a lot of the stats you see that are Twitter people actively using it, they don't realize that there are pipes that Twitter things are delivered to. So you may not know you're using Twitter, but the content that you're seeing along the side of an article that you're reading that is related to that is really you using Twitter but not knowing that you're using it.
It's, Pinterest is the one that's of great interest to me. 12% of the folks are using Pinterest, almost as adults, almost as many as Twitter, 16%. And it's pretty amazing because all you ever see is this tweet this, and there's these. I mean, I get so many tweets now. I have them bundled into the email that I get sent to me, so I can actually take the time to take a look at them. Another big one is LinkedIn. 20% of the folks are using LinkedIn. And I don't believe anybody's leveraging LinkedIn. There are 9 million applications for Facebook. Applications, I'm talking about little apps that you use for Facebook. LinkedIn's got probably less than 100. And aren't those the kind of people we want to get to? They've got the folks that are on LinkedIn, well, I have money, they want to spend, they got excess income. Nobody.
Well, let me-
A lot of people do not leverage.
Let me note
LinkedIn like they
that
should.
LinkedIn is the only stock that has gone public that is performing well, and it is made up of a business community, and if your audience is a business community, then there are a lot of great examples of people using it. But Pinterest, again, has, well, as we said earlier, it has a DNA that makes it right for some things that LinkedIn will never be right for, nor do they care, because they're making so much money doing what they're doing. A lot more than Pinterest, which is not making any money.
But when I get something
Yeah, I mean-
in from my groups, like the Global Editors Association on LinkedIn, it carries a lot more weight than when I get something from one of my friends who saw some person at Walmart or something that they want to share with me.
I mean, LinkedIn is not sexy, but it's successful. Pinterest is burning through, cash at an incredible. I mean, the reason that you haven't seen a lot of the things that people are requesting out of it is they are furiously spending money to keep the lights on.
And I've used LinkedIn for 10 years and 8 years before you ever heard of it. It's a shared resume building thing where all of my contacts update how I can reach them. It has a functionality that none of the social networks, actually, ironically, Foursquare has an incredibly good way to, if you're connected with each other, for you to call them up. But it has the ability to display to the business user a premium that they're willing to pay $20 a month for. And Pinterest has not yet.
Let's see, one more question I think we have time for. Okay.
I've read recently that within a year or so, 15% of social media reviews might be fake. There's been a lot of headlines recently about Barack Obama's fake Twitter followers and Romney's fake Twitter followers. a lot of headlines where fake and social media are kind of connected. I'm wondering if there's a looming trust issue there that we're gonna have to face coming down the road.
It's not looming, and it's not, I mean, it's today. I would think that, I mean, Rita, Amazon, you've developed a sophisticated filter that makes you read, if it's got 5 stars and it sounds wonderful, it's a friend, you know, and it's the second day the book has come out. That's a bug, it's gonna be fixed, and it's going to be fixed like Google smashed a lot of SEO fake stuff. Google will crush that. Their engineers are smarter than the engineers of the people that are masterminding the way that they're selling, you know, reviews and whatever. There was a great article just a few days in the New York Times about.
I think it's a great opportunity for people with real news to contrast themselves against the folks with fake news. You know, and it's not just the Onion putting out the fake news, right? So I think it's an opportunity for those of us that believe that news is important to our lives, that the news people are actually the watchdog teachers and conscious of the community. We need to believe that, and we need to exert that and expose these folks who are reportedly tweeting the news.
But this is an industry. It's not just individuals doing it.
No, I mean, I think there's two things. One, yeah, from a technology solution, you're already seeing that. I think it was back at the beginning of the summer, our Pinterest followers like dropped all of a sudden, and they wrote a blog post and they basically said, yeah, we actually are figuring out, well, they implemented the technology to figure out what the fake accounts were, people that had just created it but never done anything, not necessarily fake to the point of spam, just people that created an account but never did anything. They followed 3 boards, they haven't logged in within 90 days, those types of things. Whereas, so that Pinterest did that within less than a year of launching. It took Twitter probably 3 years to get to that level. The flip side of that is also, do you not trust, would you not follow, if you're for one of the candidates, would you not follow one of them because you believe that their follower count is inflated? There's not necessarily me as an individual user. If there are a bunch of fake accounts following someone, I wouldn't follow a fake account. But I think, to your point, it's pretty easy to figure out what a fake, they still have an egg, or they've got a really bad photo that they stole from somewhere, or within 2 or 3 tweets, if that person is real or just retweets or something like that. So I'm not, I think it gets a lot of headlines. I think it's actually more of a technology issue because Twitter has to maintain all of those people, but I'm not sure if there's really I haven't seen necessarily a great example of where there's like a trust issue because of an inflated number of followers.
And Amazon is the 800-pound gorilla of reviews, and I'm lying, I said I wasn't going to speak, but I tweeted that when I said I was going to lie, I was lying. When I said I was going to stop. Amazon, you're already seeing, these are reviews by people who actually purchased the book from here, and they're going to get sent to the top. You're going to develop trust and reputation management tools that will basically sniff those people out and kick them off.
Yeah, I think you're seeing it more in, iTunes has a huge problem with that right now, both from an app perspective, we develop lots of apps, as well as from a music perspective. It's hard. There's a lot of people that are either being paid to review, or they are, they're just bad reviews, or they're just giving stars without reviews. So, but again, I think that's a technology issue that any of those companies are going to solve because those reviews are too important to their core business.
It's an incredible bottom line issue to Amazon. Those reviews drive so much of their commerce that they're going to, it's for their survival that they fix that.
Well, I thank our panel for appearing today, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'll make one pitch that I didn't do in Rex's bio. He has an excellent blog that doesn't have anything to do with his business called the Rex blog. That is a widely followed and well-read blog that you should check out if you've never read it. So, thanks a
If
lot.
you're not among the 12 people who read it, that's a fairly good chance.